but there's a way you attack say their book, for instance. There's a strategy. You need to end up with let's talk about the Holy Spirit.
Didn't they say Muhammad was mentioned in Scripture? That's the new one that's come out the last year or so.
No, it's actually been around for quite some time.
Well, yeah, can I just say, I'm talking about in terms of social media. You understand? In terms of social media and the way in which it's taken root. You understand? I mean, there's a hell of a lot of stuff. You know, I even pointed out some stuff earlier on, and they said to me, oh, I should say it on the camera. I said, if I say it on camera, it's going to cause consternation because it's from your own hadith. And then I asked, can you give me clarification on which hadiths, you understand, have the correct Islam? You understand? I pointed them out, and he said yes. I said, now, I'm going to point out something to you. This is what I said to Muhammad Tawheed about your own hadith, regarding the Prophet of Islam that you know nothing about. And he says, okay, I want you to do it. I then took him over here, you understand, and I showed him it, and he said to me, well, he said that we agree with Bukhari, but he said, I've never heard this, you understand, so I'm going to go and speak to my Imam, and I'm going to come back next week and get clarification. And one of the real problems that I have is that I know that many Muslims are what I call cultural Muslims. Yeah, they don't go to the masjid, you understand, they really just don't, and they accept whatever is given to them. If you go, I think it's...
Surely you're more interested in the scripture than the person.
I am interested in the scripture, yeah, but
then
I'm going to tell you...
people are irrelevant.
No, it's not, and I'll tell you the reason why. I'll tell you the reason why.
Huh?
That's a bit rude. You're not irrelevant, are you?
I'm irrelevant.
No, I can tell you the reason why.
The issue here is the text only.
Well,
I'm irrelevant.
I can tell you why. I can tell you why it's relevant. Because is it verse 39, 36? I think it's Al-Asab, or is it verse 36, 39? One of the two. I'm not a Hafiz. And it makes clear, yeah, that whatever Allah and His Messenger has decreed, you understand, it is not open to you for any kind of interpretation. And if you do, you find yourself in error. That tells me very clearly then that your job is to obey. Yeah?
The Prophet, yes.
Yeah, your job is to submit. Now, if that is your job, where then does the clear thinking come in? If you're not allowed to challenge what the Prophet ﷺ said, you're not, because he makes clear in the Quran. This is now not hadith.
Well, big bro, if you're very honest in your research,
I'm going to show you it myself, so you know it's
let me finish. If you're honest in your research, what you'll understand is that in Islam, we accept that the Quran is from Allah.
Yes.
We accept that first and foremost.
Yes.
And then we accept that the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, was sent by Allah.
Yes.
So it follows that we obey him.
Sir?
Do you understand that thinking?
I understand the thinking, but it's not the thinking that
What's
I accept.
the issue then?
I'm going to tell you what the issue is.
Yeah.
If you have... Okay, you're right. Yeah? Just 1 minute. You just wanted to make a quick point. I'll come back to this. I wanted to show you something. Yeah, sorry.
Well, it was not that quick of a point, but I wanted to share some feedback on what you were talking about earlier. And then I also just wanted to ask a question out of curiosity too. So the feedback was that, I mean, of course, I don't want to negate your experience. Obviously, whatever you've experienced of racism in the mosque, and especially overt racism, that's your experience, and I can't negate that in any way. But some of the more subtle or covert racism, or what you refer to as like a thinly veiled racism, I just want to introduce another variable into the discussion, which is not to negate your experience, but just another variable, another tool by which perhaps you can interpret that experience, which is the fact that sometimes people do look at one another and stare at one another for reasons other than race too. For example, my wife is Pakistani. Her skin tone matches the skin tone of many Muslims in the West who have come from the Indo-Pak subcontinent. But because of her severe skin eczema, other women often stare at her for that reason, for example. I'll give you another example, right? If you don't think that's convincing. The mosque that I attend in Toronto, there's a the mosque that I attend in Toronto, Canada, that has a large number of West Africans in it. Large number of West Africans attend that mosque. So, I mean, there's no problem. They lead the salat and everything. But if you came to that mosque with me, definitely people will stare at you. 100% people will look at you differently, not because they're not used to seeing people with that skin pigmentation, because as I said, we have many West Africans just as black as you, but they look at you because you're 6'5". You look like maybe a WWE wrestler, something like this. So people do look at each other for reasons other than just race. It doesn't have to be interpreted always as something negative. Again, I'm not negating the fact that you've experienced racism, but if I went into a mosque in Senegal or in Mali in West Africa, definitely I'm sure people will look at me, there's a curiosity factor. Who is this guy? Where is he from? Where does he come from, etc. I'm just saying that variable might account for some of the experiences that you had. Not the overt experiences, but sometimes when you might think they're looking at me for this reason or that reason.
Can I just say to you that on one hand you say you don't negate my experience, and then you make the point about Toronto where you clearly negated my experience. First and foremost, I'm not from West Africa, I'm from Jamaica, which is a totally different part of the planet. That's number one. Number two, your argument would have held more weight if you said to me what were my experiences, and so I could give you my experiences and then you could come to a conclusion. Because I'm quite certain if I gave you my experiences, your conclusion would have been entirely different. When I speak about what I've experienced, it's not just myself as an individual, there are other black Muslims as well. There are lots of, one thing that's not being spoken of, there are lots of black Muslims that have left Islam. When I say black Muslims, I'm not talking about Somalis or Eritreans because they have their culture. I'm speaking about people who are Jamaican, who are from the West Indies, and who have parents who have been born in the West. There's many of us who adopted Islam, and there are many of us who have turned our back on it, because when we sit down and we discuss some of the experiences that we've had as a result of adopting a different culture, whereby it's not so much about us accepting Islam. If it was just about accepting Islam, it would be bad and not so bad. But in taking Islam, there is a cultural appropriation, meaning, or a misappropriation, meaning that all of a sudden we then take hold.
It's almost over.
No, it's only a couple of minutes. Then we then it's not so much of just following al-Islam. There is a degree of control. There are control mechanisms within Islam. I'm going to tell you, for us, because as I said to you, whilst we may have similar skin colours, my experiences are totally different to yours. Both familial and historical.
I'm waiting for the cultural difference.
Just 1 minute. Well, there are plenty. But for me, when I see black Muslims, especially from the West Indies, who take on Islam, with the cultural appropriation, all of a sudden, it's not just about accepting Islam. It's about having then taken on your names or names. It's then taking on your language. It's then taking on particular parts of your culture. Do you understand? Now, you can say no, but you must remember, when I'm speaking about the community that I come from. The community that I come from is different to the community that you come from. For example, I was at a funeral on Friday. My friend's mother died, and there was about 1,400 of us at the funeral, because black funerals are normally very big. And I would say that literally all of Brixton was there. All of Brixton was there, and we were mostly Jamaicans who were there. We have our own particular culture, the way in which we do the funerals, the way in which we celebrate the life of someone, which is wholly different to how you possibly would. The point that I'm making is that when you become Muslim, you understand, and this is the truth, our names are no longer sufficient. We've got to take the names of, I'm just telling you, generally speaking, I'm not speaking about your community, I'm speaking about my community.
You're speaking about Islam,
sir,
which is something to do with people.
Sir,
you're speaking about Islam, it has to be supported by the text.
You need to hear me very clearly.
Yeah, I'm listening.
I'm speaking about my community.
So you're not speaking about Islam?
I'm speaking about my community who adopt Islam. You cannot negate what I'm saying. You need to hear what I'm saying. Because, let me tell you the reason why.
Substantiate it.
I don't have to substantiate anything. I'm just telling you what my experience is.
No, but the claim of your experience, you're relating it to Islam.
Sir, this is tiring me out. I'm telling you what happens in my community.
Then that's to do with your community, not to do with Islam.
I'm talking about my community who adopt Islam. And I'm saying to you, whether you wish to accept it or
I
not,
can't accept that they do
What-
something
what I'm
not
gonna do-
supported
what
by
I'm gonna do-
Islam,
what
and
I'm
then
gonna
you
do-
accuse Islam.
what
for
I'm
it.
going to do,
You've got to accept the dialogue, big
what
bro.
I'm
You
going
can't
to
just
do,
throw statements
what I'm going to
that are
do,
unsubstantiated.
sir, listen,
You can't
I don't have to
just
do
throw
anything.
statements.
I don't have to
Look,
do anything.
you
Because I was
can't
having a
throw-
conversation
you can't
with
throw
this man.
statements. You
Yeah?
can't throw statements that are unsubstantiated.
If I may, brother.
Sir, I'm going
can't do that.
to stick to. No, because your videos are negative sometimes.
Just for that
Pardon?
here.
Yeah, your
just for that
videos are
here.
negative sometimes.
If I could even
Yeah,
just,
so I'm not
if I
into
could
that.
just
I'm not
momentarily,
into it.
Don't worry.
if I could just
So
momentarily.
let me just make my
I'm not
one
denying,
point.
Yeah,
No, let me make my one point.
I get you.
Yeah, I'm saying to you that black people, generally speaking, from my community, when they become Muslims, they
Arab
take on
dress,
just give me a
Arab name,
second.
yeah.
They take on the dress, they take on the names, they take on aspects of the culture, they take on aspects of the language. Because apparently Allah could only reveal the Quran in a text which is barely decipherable. All I'm saying to you is that you don't have to accept it. Yeah, your friend doesn't have to accept it, but I'm telling you what the situation is in my community. Now, you can't negate that because somehow it goes against what you say. Now, to be honest with you, I'm quite tired of hearing the separation of Muslims and Islam when it suits Muslims and it suits Islam.
But I haven't
I'm
been
tired of
making
it.
any of these points. If
I was
could just-
speaking about your friend.
Yeah. But I heard you explain all of this before, and I think you've misunderstood me because I haven't negated these experiences.
You say I mistook you or your Islam?
Yeah, no. You misunderstood what I was trying to say because I wasn't trying to negate your experiences of having encountered racism, even racist structures within the Muslim and Muslim community.
Yeah.
Nor was I trying to say you're West African. I was using that as an example to say that we have Muslims who's at my mosque whose skin tone is just as black as yours. My point was they wouldn't know that you're from Jamaica. They would assume probably another Muslim from Senegal or Mali, like the rest of them. My point was only that they would look at you more than they would look at other people, not account of skin color, which might be the first thing you want to filter it through, but because they're looking at somebody who's 6'5". We don't have many 6'5" people at our
Can I just say
mosque.
to you what you still haven't done?
Are you not open-minded enough to acknowledge the possibility that's the
Can I
case?
just tell you, if you're going to go into ad hominem attacks, this is where I turn around and walk away. You understand? Because I've pointed out to you that we've been standing here and you still haven't asked me what my experiences are.
Because I've heard you.
Given
I've heard you speaking.
No, with the greatest respect, you've given me your narrative, but you haven't asked me what my experiences are, why you've come to the conclusion that you have. You're speaking generally about a situation when here am I standing right in front of you that you can ask me particularly so you can zoom in and then challenge what I say or help in the situation.
I don't need to challenge because I accept it. I'm only saying that do you not accept that this is a possible variable that would account for some of those situations that you may have accounted? Obviously, not the overt examples of racism, obviously, but are there other examples?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, because all I'm saying is if I walk into an Indonesian mosque
I was just
in
gonna
Indonesia,
say, can I ask you a question?
they are going to look at me.
Can I ask you a question? Is there a particular group of people who represent Islam? Is there a race that represents Islam? That's where he's headed. Do you not see where he's going? What you could simply turn around and ask him is if there's a Jamaican mosque, which there is, and someone
Where is
non-Jamaican
that?
comes in,
Where is
you
that?
will be recognized.
Where's the Jamaican mosque?
There is.
Where?
There is. I might not know exactly
in
where it is,
Kingston,
but there is.
Jamaica.
I'm just asking you.
In Kingston,
There
Jamaica,
is.
there, yeah.
A masjid is built. A masjid is built by the people who adhere to that religion, regardless of where they're from. So are you saying Jamaicans can't have a masjid?
So if I may ask a
Are you
question
saying
now.
Jamaicans cannot have a mosque?
Can I just say to you that
Are you saying that?
I understand.
Can
why-
a Jamaican have a mosque?
I understand why you don't understand my point.
Of course I understand.
You don't know.
What do you mean I
With the
don't
greatest
understand?
respect, I'm telling you,
what?
with the greatest respect, you don't understand the point that I'm
Why are
making.
you refusing to answer my question? Do you want a monologue or do you want a dialogue, big bro?
See,
You
the
have a
thing is,
habit of doing this.
when you do this, I'm going to turn my back and I'm going to walk away from
You can do that, it's not a problem.
I'll speak to you guys
You can
later
do
on.
that, it's not a
Speak
problem.
to you later on.
So you
Yeah?
can't handle a conversation.